Isabel, whenever you're ready, you can
Yeah.
share your screen and we can start with the presentations.
Okay, cool. So let me... Please let me know if you can see my screen and then you can hear me properly, and then I will start.
All good. We can hear
Okay,
you and we
cool.
see the presentation.
Awesome. So I will start. So anyway, good afternoon. I'm Isabel Sanz, and I decided to analyze data about life expectancy since it has an impact in our own lives, but also in other matters like the economy. So while I was searching a little bit about life expectancy, I found two quite interesting statements. The one which is quite obvious, right, that medical advances have reduced the number of deaths. And then the second one, quite interesting as well, is like Spanish people are predicted to have the longest life expectancy in the world by 24. So after seeing these statements and gathering some information, I established three objectives for this analysis. The first one is to analyze life expectancy over time. The second one is to see some differences among countries. And then the third one studies some factors that could have an impact on life expectancy. So before I start to show you some cool plots, I'm going to talk a little bit about my data sets. They come from the World Bank, and I use two data sets. The first one is basically the evolution of life expectancy by country between or from 1960 to 2019. And the second data set, I decided to choose some factors that I expected to have a relationship with life expectancy, also by country, but this time from 2015 to 2018. So there you will see, right, like a list of many variables that I chose. But for this analysis and this presentation, I'm just going to show you two of them because are the ones that have a stronger relationship with life expectancy. Basically, it's GDP per capita and mortality from some diseases like cardiovascular, chronic respiratory diseases, cancer, or diabetes. So my first plot is a world map that shows the evolution of life expectancy over that period that I mentioned before, 1960 to 2015. So I'm going to give you some indications in the way that you can understand better this plot. Here, the color that you see is basically life expectancy, being purple the lowest age and yellow the highest age of around 80 years old. And then the bar that you see here moving is the timeline, and it changes every 5 years. So here what we see is that developing countries, so I can say maybe like the south of the world, right? It starts in the 1960s with purple or dark blue color, and then they finish in 2019 with a green color. So that means like they have found like a life expectancy over 60 years. So it has changed significantly. And then for developed countries, it changed as well, but not much. So they start in a green color and they go through yellow color. So they have a life expectancy around 80 years old. So this is my first plot. And then the second plot, I want to compare Spain with the rest of the world over this period. And we see here the same as I showed you before. Life expectancy increases over this period of time, over time, right? And also Spain had over this period as well had a higher life expectancy than the rest of the world. But that gap is decreasing over time. So, like if we took a look at the data statement that I showed you before, right, maybe Spain will have the higher or the longest life expectancy by 2040, but I'm pretty sure that is going to be followed closely by the rest of the countries. And a cool insight that I found is like, as you can see here, like in the early of this period, the life expectancy is increasing like at a constant rate, right? But there is a period here by the end of the 80s and beginning of the 90s that something happened because it slows down. So basically, this is due to the AIDS crisis that were on this period, but also all the wars that happened in Africa. So this is the main insight that I found quite interesting because life expectancy, or to see this graph, can tell us something about the history of the countries. So that's why I wanted to compare or to show you 5 other countries and to see the evolution of the life expectancy. And you will see they are quite different. So we have the first one, which is Norway, and in these 60 years, it hasn't changed much, right? Then we have Afghanistan, which is the yellow one, and despite all the conflicts that suffer, it has increasing at a constant rate, more or less. And then we have the other three countries that are also very, very interesting to have seen their life expectancy, because the first one is China. And what happens in China is like in the first decade of the 60s and beginning of the 70s, the life expectancy increased rapidly. And this is because of the Chinese industrialization. And then we have two other countries that, well, this is not like a good fact that happened in their history, because they suffered a genocide. The first one that we have seen here is Cambodia, and then we have Rwanda. And it might worth it to notice that for Rwanda, it took 25 years to recover the same level of life expectancy that had before this period of genocide. So again, we see here, like also for these countries, life expectancy has increased, but it was quite interesting to see the difference between these 2 years, 1960 and 2019. And these two plots are going to show you that. The first one is a histogram, and the second one is a box plot. So the main insight here is that in these 2 years, like almost 6 decades, the average life expectancy has increased about almost 20 years, which is a lot for like just 6 decades. But also the box plot helps us to understand how that range has decreased. Like if we took a look at the box plot from the 1960s, its median is now in 2019 the minimum of life expectancy for all the countries that have been analyzed. But also another thing is that for 50% of all the countries that have been analyzed, they have a life expectancy between 68 and 78 years old. So again, we have seen that life expectancy has changed a lot. So as of now, we have finished, or I have finished to show you the univariate analysis, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of the bivariate analysis that I talked in the beginning of the presentation. So here is a correlation matrix, and I'm not showing all the variables that I analyzed, because they didn't have a strong relationship. So here what we see is basically the main ones, and the ones in yellow are the ones that I chose to show you in this presentation. So they are slightly correlated. Like GDP per capita has only 0.64, and the mortality from all the diseases that I mentioned only 0.7. So this could be maybe there is not a linear, there is a non-linear correlation between these variables, but also is because due to all the complexity that life expectancy has. Like it's not, but maybe with one variable or independently, we are not going to explain life expectancy. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, now I'm going to show you the relationship between life expectancy and GDP per capita, and then life expectancy with mortality. So these are the plots, which are scatter plots for GDP per capita and life expectancy. And here what you will see is two plots, one for 2015 and another one for 2018, to see like the situation hasn't changed much in these 3 years, 4 years. So you will see two highlighted areas. One is like a darker green, and then the other one is a lighter one. The darker one is basically what does is identifying those developed countries, those that have a GDP per capita over 20K US dollars, based or according to IMF. And then the lighter one will be the developing countries. So what we see here is like citizens from developed countries could expect to have a life expectancy over 80 years. But even the citizens get richer, that doesn't mean that they are going to have a significant increase in their life expectancy. So there is a case here like Luxembourg. Like they have their citizens, they are the richest, right? But then have a lower life expectancy than maybe other countries that have a lower GDP per capita. And for the developing countries, there is more uncertainty because their life expectancy could range from 50 to 80 years of life. And then the second or the last analysis or bivariate analysis that I did is with the mortality one. So if we put a little bit of imagination, right, we could kind of like draw kind of like a curve. Of course, there are some outliers, but this is not a linear relationship. And what we see here is like in most of the cases, the lower the mortality rate for these diseases that I mentioned before is the higher the life expectancy is going to be for those countries, right? And also, what I highlighted here is basically all the developed countries, because those developed countries, as we have seen here, we have seen before, are the ones that have a life expectancy over 80 years. And these countries present a mortality rate for all diseases, diabetes, cancer, lower than 13%. Okay, so these are here kind of like the main conclusions that I found for this analysis, bivariate analysis, and even like I told you all the conclusions. I think it's better to summarize a little bit. So basically, what we have seen in all the plots is that all countries have improved their life expectancy, especially developing countries. Also, like in just 6 decades, the average life expectancy has increased over 20 years, which is a lot for human history. And then the gap among countries in terms of life expectancy seems to reduce over time. And for all the countries, especially those developed countries, it seems to be a barrier that they can achieve life expectancy over 80 years. And then, of course, what we have seen in the last plot is that all those diseases like cancer, diabetes, they affect negatively in their life expectancy. So this is just a very small analysis that I have done. And I just want to mention, based on what I found, that there are some research out there that basically they are pointing out to other factors like gender, genetics, ethnicity, that they maybe have a stronger impact on life expectancy. So this analysis could go further than what I have seen, but really I enjoy very much with this analysis, and well, thank you for your attention. I hope you learn a little bit of life expectancy and enjoy as much as I did doing this analysis. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Isabel. Congratulations on your presentation. I enjoyed it a lot. So if we have any questions, you can just go ahead or use this raise your hand tool, and we can get to those. Idoia, I knew that you were going to ask something.
Yeah, sorry. No, really interesting. Congratulations on the presentation. But because it was super interesting, not to see just, GDP and so on, and to see the different plots and so on that were really, really nice as well. And really clear explanation as well regarding the plots and how to interpret them and so on. I think it's just more curiosity rather than something, a question with the COVID, 2020, because your data set, it's 2018, and for sure, I don't know, maybe there is no data available for sure, because otherwise you would have included in the, but it should be super interesting. So don't leave that project, wait for the COVID, because for sure that you will see some interesting things.
So there was so there was some data about 2020, but there was like a few for few countries. So that's why I decided to remove them that year and 2019, because also, but yeah, of course there must be an interesting topic to see. But like regardless what everything is expecting, I read some articles that they were saying that COVID hasn't had any like a significant impact on life expectancy over these years. Like
that's interesting too. It's interesting too. So yes, please do it and share it with the community.
In the next course.
Yeah, sure. But congratulations.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thank you, Doya.
Any other questions for Isabel? All right, so I think that we are good to move to our second presentation by Natalia.
Hi, yes. I'm gonna start presenting in a bit. Let me see. I will share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
I will need someone to say it to me because I can't see anyone at the moment.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
Can you see it? Sorry.
Yes.
I think she does. She
Oh,
cannot.
wait,
hear.
I cannot hear. Wait a second.
Can you hear
Okay,
us?
let's try this way. I think sometimes my headset just turns off without saying anything. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Natalia. I am a student in allWomen for data analytics, and I also previously was on the product management course. And as you can see, I love allWomen and everything that we're studying here. And today I will be talking about the last trends in production worldwide for avocados. And first of all, I just wanted to point out the main sources where I took my database and how I got to know a bit more about the avocado market. So I used the database from FAO Stat, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization for the United Nations. And thanks to their very clean database, I didn't have to do a lot of data cleaning, and I just got to choose whatever I needed from there. And the Has Avocado board, which is mostly for companies who want to produce avocados or want to sell avocados around the world, but it helped me a lot to understand some of the concepts and terminologies, which leads me to just a few clarifications of the terminology that is going to be used. You will see that I will repeat a lot. Oh, sorry. You will see that I will repeat a lot area harvested and production. And by area harvested, I mean the hectares that have been used to harvest avocados. And as for production, is the tons that have been produced. The main objectives of this analysis for me was to get to know a bit more in general terms how has been the avocado production in the last 4 years, which are from 2015 since 2018, since I didn't have more recent data than that. And also I wanted to find out who are the main producers on this market. And now I will talk a bit about the global production and how the land has been used around the world. But first, I had the necessity of checking if there was a correlation between the area harvested and production. And my hypothesis was that yes, of course, the more area that you harvest, the more avocados that you will produce. But during the data manipulation, I was not that sure, so I needed to do this correlation map. This correlation heating map. And as you can see, the area harvested and production have a very strong correlation. Here we can see the most recent information that we have about the land harvested for avocado production, which is for 2018. And here on this scatter plot, we can see that more or less the top countries that we have here on the right are more or less producing in a same trend. However, we see a clear winner and a front runner, which is Mexico, that is producing over 2 million tons in 206,000 hectares. Some other top producers that we can see are Dominican Republic, Peru, Colombia, Indonesia, and IT, which we will talk a bit more about them later. Here, my apologies in advance because I didn't manage to make this graph a bit clearer. Here it's a world map where we can see the evolution of the avocado production over the course of 2015 to 2018. Maybe it can clear a bit more how the production has grown by checking the evolution of the ranks here. We can see that it's growing more and more, and that Mexico always stays at the top. And we can see here in purple as well Colombia, Peru, and we can see Indonesia as well. And overall, from the data that I had, I discovered that the production has been increasing over the last years steadily and positively. And more countries are starting to produce avocados. As you can see here in Europe, we're starting to produce our own avocados in our land, which is quite surprising because avocado is quite an exotic fruit, and it has very precise conditions in terms of weather and water. Okay, and as I said before, I will focus now on the top 5 avocado producers, which, as I mentioned, were Mexico, Dominican Republic, Peru, Colombia, and Indonesia. So here we have a line plot that on the x-axis we can see the last 4 years, and on the y-axis we see the production in tons. This is in specific millions of tons. And here we can see that compared to the other top producers, Mexico is way on their own league. Their production is quite high. And not only that, it's increasing, and it has increased on 0.6 million tons in the last 4 years. And here we can see as well that Dominican Republic, Peru, and Indonesia have more or less like a very stable growth, and it hasn't had very dramatic falls or ups. And something interesting here is that Colombia had a bit of a slight drop here on the first 2 years, but then it recovered the production, and not only it has recovered their production, that it has overpassed Indonesia, and it's about to reach Peru in terms of production. Their total growth in the last 4 years was 0.13 million tons, which is a lot of avocados. Here we can see a very similar line plot, but instead of the production in tons, we can see how much of how many hectares have been used for harvesting avocados. As we saw before, Mexico is still on the very top, and it's also increasing quite a lot. And we see here as well that there are some countries that had a very steady use when it comes of land for producing, which are Peru, Indonesia, and Dominican Republic. Something interesting that I found out is that Dominican Republic, even though it's the second world producer, it's one of the lowest actually in terms of area they're using for harvest. And it's also very stable, and they are not increasing nor reducing the land that they're using. And as we saw before as well, Colombia on 2017 started to grow, and we see that it's already passing Peru and Indonesia in terms of land that they're using. And so I would say that the conclusions that I took out of this whole database and of this whole analysis can be put in these sentences. So as we saw, there's a general increase in production over the past 4 years. We're producing more and more avocados every year. And we are also using more and more hectares of land for the avocado production across the world. As we saw, there are some upcoming new countries doing it. The biggest avocado producer by far is Mexico, and they are the clear front runners. The top producers, except of Mexico, have a very similar trend in terms of the production in numbers and also the land that they're using, which may be the exception of Colombia. We'll have to see in the next last 2 years, like 2019, 2020, and maybe 2021, and see if that trend is still going up. And also that there are some emerging European countries that started to produce their own avocados on their land, even though the production is still very low and it's far to be compared with the top producers. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation and that I didn't make you hungry. And please let me know if you have any questions.
I don't know about you, but this definitely made me hungry. These pictures were all lovely.
Absolutely, yeah. Same here.
I do have a question for Natalia.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, okay, cool. I love it, Natalia. I love avocados, so it was fantastic to know where are they coming from. But I don't think it's totally out of the project, but just to know your opinion because of this trend to Europe, like starting to grow avocados, and I see in your map that even Sweden or Norway is growing them, which seems very weird to me because of the weather. But do you think it's related to the trend to people becoming vegetarians and vegans in European or, I don't know, northern countries?
I really wanted to dive into that because I also love avocados, and my whole point of doing this topic was at the beginning that I wanted to know more, like if it was also affecting our diets. And I would say that can be a reason, but not the main reason. I think that it's because the millennial generation in specific, who are now getting a bit more income than before, love avocados and they're buying more and more. And also another thing that I wanted to point out, and unfortunately didn't have the time, is that all this land that we are using now, I wanted to also find out if how it was affecting in terms of our environment, and if it's making us destroy land, like forest or whatever, to produce more. Because this is what's happening in Spain actually now.
Yeah, and as well, I guess the consume of water, like if it's like which is so totally super interesting. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm just curious if you had a look at how much of how big part of Mexico is dedicated to actually producing avocados, because they produce insane amounts. I'm really curious, how does that relate to the actual amount of land they dedicate to anything else? Like, is that their predominant industry? Have you had a look at that? Maybe, I don't know. We didn't really talk about it.
What I checked out of curiosity, just to see how much was in total of the whole territory, was that even though they are producing a lot, since Mexico is so big, the land that represents what is being used for avocados is not as big, because of course there are other crops that are being produced, but still they are by far top producers.
Right.
I think it was like a 0.000 something, so it was still very small compared to the whole.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, maybe they have ways to, I don't know, somehow produce more on a smaller land. Interesting.
That's what I was thinking as well, because that's what I found curious as well with Dominican Republic, because Dominican Republic is not like a huge country in terms of like land and territory. So, and still with very small land, they're the second top producers. So I think it would be very interesting as well to see how efficient their land is as well for production.
Right. Cool.
I was also curious, Natalia, but maybe you don't know, no? Are they like, we saw that Mexico is like the monster of producing avocados because it's super far from the rest, but are they like exporting the avocados, or are they eating the avocados, all of them? You know what I mean? Because
definitely they are exporting them, and and also the kind of avocado that is being produced there is one of the like the main avocado that is a species that is being consumed around the world. So and it's also very easy to transport and stuff. So that's why they are the top producers.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, they cannot eat that amount of avocados. Come on,
No,
there are a lot of people. But...
we know them guacamole lovers. No, they cannot eat all of those avocados by themselves. We are helping them.
Yeah, okay, cool, thanks. Nice to see you again.
Oh, yeah, nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Natalia, for your insights and for your contribution. I believe that it's a great use of data to actually get to know where and how what we eat is being produced. So thank you. And now I think that we can move to our third presentation by Marta. Marta, are you here? Let's see.
You're on mute, Marta.
There she goes.
So do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So I want to show you some insights about if over the rainbow, like I don't know if you are guessing which is the topic, but I want to know if over the rainbow are we going into the right direction. Historically, people has been discriminated regarding their sexual preferences, and even nowadays, people have been from the LGBTI community to avoid discrimination, hate, or even violence. Homophobic news are present everywhere, like in the church, through the laws, through the cultural manifestations, through the streets, and even through sport. And I want to show you some figures to show the evolution through this topic in the recent years. The dataset has been extracted from the biggest survey in Europe about the LGBTI discrimination that is held by the Fundamental Rights Agency from the European Union. This survey has two editions, and in the second one, the participation has increased 50%. The groups represented are lesbian women, gay men, bisexual, transgender people, and also intersex. But in 2012, this group, the intersex one, was not included, so it's not included in this analysis. All the results that I get were in percentages, so the results are comparable from both years. I will focus on the discrimination section that covers a general topic about daily life discriminations, and after that I will focus in concrete questions regarding to discrimination at school, at work, or through healthcare. To make the comparison 3 years easier, I have chosen 3 countries. Finland, because it's expected to be one of the progressive one. Hungary, because nowadays is at risk of being expelled from from Europe because of the homophobic behavior of the government, and Spain, my hometown, and that presents also the highest participation of the survey with more than 20,000 participants. We will start the analysis with the general approach to the discrimination through the question: during the last 12 months, did you feel discrimination in any of the following situations because of being part of the LGBT community? Here we can see the different topics that are covering this topic. And we can see that when showing your ID or when looking for a job, the discrimination perception has decreased, but in all other cases, the discrimination has increased. Above all, when showing, when using healthcare services or when assisting to educational institutions. If we summarize the previous slide, we could see that globally the discrimination in 2019 has increased at 32% regarding to the previous survey. So we should do better, don't you think? Regarding to the discrimination divided by groups, the more discriminated ones are the transgender people, and we can see also that in 2019, the bisexual men discrimination has increased the most. Regarding to the countries, we see that the evolution in Finland remains almost equal, but in Hungary and in Spain, the discrimination perception increased a lot. Now we are going to focus on the period where the participants stay at school, and the question was if they experience negative comments or conduct because being part of the LGBTI community. And now you can see a graphic that shows the distribution of the answers. With the green part, you see the people that never felt discrimination at school, and in dark red, you see the people that always feel discriminated at school. Here we can see that the evolution is not going good because the people who are not being discriminated or rarely are decreasing. If we analyze the results by group, we could see that gay men are the most discriminated group in 2019, and that bisexual women are the less discriminated in both years. Regarding to the bisexual group, we could see that in 2012, both women and men were the less discriminated at school, but in 2019, we could see that bisexual men discrimination perception has increased the most. Regarding to the countries, in all of them, the answer never has increased, but in Finland, the answers that the people who answer often or always has slightly decreased. In the case of Hungary, is the answers, the people who answer always has decreased. But in the case of Spain, I must say that the people who always and often get discrimination at school, they are increased. Now, regarding to the discrimination at work, they focus on the people who have a job and ask them if during the last 5 years they have experienced negative attitude because being part of the LGBTI community. In the graphic, we can see that a positive evolution where the people who always get discriminated at work decrease 50% and the people who never or rarely are increasing. So we are in the good direction in this topic. Regarding to the groups, in all of them the discrimination generally decrease, but the two groups that present less discrimination at work are gay men and bisexual men, and lesbians present the highest increment of answering never perceived discrimination at work. On the other side, we could see that transgender people are still the ones more discriminated at work. Regarding to countries, we see that out of the three, in Finland, is less frequent that people perceive always discrimination at work. While in Hungary, we see the better evolution because it presents the highest increment responding never perceive discrimination at work and the highest decrease of people who always perceive discrimination at work. Finally, in Spain, the discrimination is decreasing slightly. This is the last section, and they asked if participants experience uncomfortable situation while attending healthcare. And globally, we see a small improvement, but I wonder if is that true. So this is the aggregate results, and if we disaggregate these results, we could see that in almost all cases, the performance is going better, but we could see that inappropriate curiosity or comments are still too high, and on the other side, that a lot of people is avoiding attending healthcare services, and that's a bit worrying, like a society. If we go through the analysis by groups, we see that transgender people are the most discriminated, but we could also see that the discrimination through bisexual women and lesbian is decreasing. Through the countries, we see that Hungary succeeds the most because they present better results through the 2019 and also Spain, but we see a well result for Finland. That is the country that until now they have better results or more respectful behavior from the other questions that I mentioned before. So if we go in deep through Finland, we could see now, again, the same questions, and in all of them, we see almost or a positive evolution or almost the same situation, but we see that avoiding healthcare services has amazingly increased, and that's like really worrying for all of us. And this issue was also made public in 2018 by Miss Gay Finland, who denounced that most doctors refuse to treat her. He has a serious illness, so most doctors refuse to treat her because her sexual orientation. So to conclude, I would say that things are improving at work. So we are working to make this situation better for all the community, but we need to continue working at schools and in healthcare. Through the group, transgender people are the most discriminated generally, followed by lesbians, but on the other side, gay are the most discriminated at schools. We should say also that Finland seems to be the most respectful country, but they need to focus a lot on improving their healthcare attention. And in Spain, we must do hard work through education. I also want to say that my intention with this analysis is to make us all think about this daily discrimination and encourage people to be critical with these negative behaviors to reverse them. So please don't give up, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marta, for choosing this super relevant and important topic in our society today. It really has a massive impact to see it in numbers. At least it was for me. I don't know if we have any questions for Marta.
Yeah, I have. And this is a really clear example on, let's say, something that it's kind of right now, on the news, let's say, with Samuel's case, for instance, unfortunately, but it's super nice to see this type of analysis on which not only we are looking at the news, you were analyzing that data and you were it's extracting conclusions that were aligned to the news, because sometimes the news are, making up a lot of things, so we don't have to trust 100%, but it's important, even if it's hard and if it's kind of sad, because it's sad, everything, at least in my opinion, it's important not to spread the voice and to show numbers, with real data and so on. So congrats on that. I encourage you to publish this in Medium or something, you know what I mean? Because, please. Because, I think, or in LinkedIn, or do a post on LinkedIn or something, because I think it's super interesting. I would say all of your topics, not only Marta's. I have one question just for curiosity, because you were analyzing, let's say, the school, so the discrimination at schools and so on. So that means that in the different data sets that you were analyzing, you were so they were asking people from different ages, right? Because so young people, teenagers, and also adults and so on, right? And those questions were linked,
Yeah.
Vale.
But I have the aggregated results per country. So I only get that in Spain, the people who answer that they felt discriminated at school is 90% or 50%. So I don't have the raw data. So I could not say that people that now is 70 before were more discriminated than now that people are 20 and they are feeling less discriminated.
Okay.
That's a pity, but
I
tried to get this info, but I couldn't. So
no, it's what it is. No, I know. No, because I was thinking that it was maybe that case, or maybe people that are now on their 30s, 40s, 50s and ask or answer about nobody. But if it's that case, vale, congrats, super, I love it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Marta, I have a comment as well on what Idoia was saying. I think it was super cool if you publish, because, normally Spain is at the top of countries that say that the politics that we have are the more inclusive and all the politics. So, but then you show the numbers and the people who feel it, they don't feel it, even maybe the law is on your side, but then, in your normal life, you don't feel that way. So I think that was super interesting to me to feel that the people, when backwards from 2012 to 19. So yeah.
Thank you, Alba.
I just have a question for you, Marta. Just out of curiosity, in case that you had time to do a bit of research, what do you think their main reason is that people are feeling kind of like less safe or less comfortable on accessing healthcare? Because I think that especially what I saw here with your studies is that it's something that we should be really concerned about, and it's something that like we should pay attention to it.
Well, in my opinion, that avoiding healthcare services is increasing is like a problem for the whole society, not for only this community. So I think we are not doctors, or we all not work in the sanitary sector or health sector, but I think all of us as society must do something to change these numbers, because they are like worrying a lot. I don't know what else would we do, or what could we do to encourage people to avoid their prejudices to assist to healthcare, because for me it's like the main aspect of life is like being healthy. All the rest like is secondary, but I don't know what to do. But if we start like changing our perception of the reality, as Alba said, that in Spain everybody thinks that we are going good. If we change this perspective, maybe it would be useful for the people who need us to help them.
Yeah, and I think that especially with the last 2 years that we had this pandemic, I think this is something that we need to take action right away. And especially with mental health as well, because these collectives always have this predisposition of having a lot of mental health issues, and this is very concerning. So thank you so much for bringing light to us on that matter.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually say posting on LinkedIn might not be a bad place, because there's a lot of companies that could see your analysis, and then maybe there are companies in healthcare sector that would be like, oh wait, but we don't discriminate in this topic. Perhaps we can advertise so that we can attract people to come to us for help. You know what I mean? So actually it's not a bad idea to post on LinkedIn as well. So maybe you reach people who should hear it, so that they can open their doors to people who actually need healthcare, and kind of make it more comfortable for them to come forward. If maybe if the hospital or whoever is providing healthcare is more open to saying, hey, we don't, come to us, like we don't have any problem with, who you are, right? So yeah, I definitely encourage you to publish it. I feel like only good things can come from that. So yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, I will.
Well, it cannot harm, putting some good analysis out there cannot harm, really. So,
okay, I will. I'll let you know.
All right. Do so that I can reshare it.
Homework for the vacations.
Yeah. We are definitely going to reshare as well from allWomen if you All right, so thank you, Marta, again, and thank you everyone for your comments. And I think that we are ready for Victoria's presentation.
Okay, a moment. Can you see my screen and hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Victoria. I'm from Argentina and my background is in tourism, but I always hear that who has the information has the power, and it's important that that information to be clear and organized. So that's why I choose data analytics. In this project, I was looking to find how important is the production of meat in Argentina, because my family there produce it, and I was raised in that sector. But after that, I realized that we have so many kinds of meat that people can consume, and I wanted to know which ones and how much. So it's interesting to know where does the meat that we eat come from. My objectives in this project is to know what kind of meat is produced in the world and which countries produce it, how much beef and buffalo is produced in Argentina, to know which country consumes the most meat per person and what kind of meat is that, and to know what type of meat is produced by the countries with the highest GDP. The data set that I choose, it's all from Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, that's the same as Natalia. And in this data set, we have many type of meats, like sheep and goat, poultry, beef and buffalo, pig meat, and others. It really takes my attention that some countries produce camel meat, and I didn't know that before this researching. But then, as I told at the beginning, I wanted to know which is the most type of meat produced in the world. And how can you see in this graphic, the pig meat is the most produced between 1961 and 2018. It's followed by beef and buffalo, and then the poultry. But I was wondering which country produced it. And actually, we can see here clearly it is Asia, and more specifically, China, followed by United States, Germany, Spain, Vietnam, Brazil. They also produce that, but in a less. Well, then as I told before, I wanted to make a deeper research in beef and buffalo meat production. And here we can see all the evolution of the production of beef and buffalo across the years and in all the world. As you can see, United States and Brazil, after that, they are one of the most produced of beef and buffalo meat. Argentina, has a lot of production, but because of their crisis and changes on politics, the production is not growing up a lot. Also, I wanted to analyze more Argentina because it's my country where I was born. United States because it's the country with the higher production of beef and buffalo, and Spain because it's the country where I live today. And as we can see here, in Argentina, the production is really variable because of the crisis and the changes of the politics, as I told before. But here, for example, they has a bigger increase because of the export to Europe, and their domestic consume grew up at that time. But well, as we told, the production were up and down, like the economy in Argentina. Always, it's like this. Then in United States, we can see that the evolution is more constant. And in Spain is the same, but we don't have to take off of mind that in Spain, they produce a quarter than in Argentina, with 3-4 million tons in Argentina and with 700 in Spain. Also, as I told before, United States is the most producer, so they have 12 million tons. Well, here we can realize better that United States it's in the first position in the beef and buffalo production. Argentina is in the third position, and Spain in the 18th. Also, we don't have to forget that Brazil is one of the bigger production too, and also China and India. They don't produce beef meat because of the respect that they have to the cows, but they produce buffalo a lot. After that, I wanted to know which country is consume more meat per person in 2017. And as we can see really clear, it was Hong Kong, followed by United States, Australia. These are the top 10 countries. And then Qatar were the country with the highest GDP in 2017. And I was wondering what kind of meat do they produce? So as we can see here, Qatar between 1960 and 2018 produced more sheep and goat meat, and they also consume it. And well, poultry, it's has a relevance here too, but it's not the most producer. And then in Hong Kong, the most meat production is pig meat, as we can see really clear in the pink color. So my conclusions with this project are that pig meat is the most produced meat in all the world, and it is produced in Asia, in China exactly. In Argentina, they produced 3 million tons in the last 5 years, but because of the crisis, they have an irregular production. And what country consumes the most meat and what type of meat? That was Hong Kong, and they consume more pig meat, but also they produce it. And the country with the highest GDP, Qatar, they produce sheep and goat, and also they consume it the most. So I know that nowadays there is a movement called veganism, but in Argentina is beef and buffalo is part of our culture. Well, maybe we have to change that culture. It's really difficult. So the big questions is, are they opposites or could they be complementary? So thank you so much for hearing me, and I hope you like it.
Thank you, Victoria. Good job. An excellent presentation. I'm also an Argentinian and a vegetarian. I'm sensitive to this topic. I don't know if anybody has a question for Victoria.
For me, it was super impressed to see Hong Kong with such a small population compared to Argentina or the States, you know, to be the top, no? The top one. They are only meat, no? Because I was checking the population, meanwhile you were presenting, and it was 7 million. So it's like the people that are living in Catalonia.
Yeah, but well, they eat more, not meat, not beef and buffalo, but the other kind, like pig meat.
But super crazy. Do you have any insight, just for curiosity, about, because for me it's super crazy, you know, that it's like on the first position, like above the States, that how many people are living in, or Argentina, that are living a lot of people. Do you have any insight, just for curiosity? No sé. I was shocked.
Yeah, I don't know. I also thought that Argentina was one of the bigger producers of beef and buffalo, and here I realize it isn't. Yeah.
And I was also seeing that, well, in Argentina, well, it was fluctuating and it was super nice, all the plots and so on. And on the 70s, it drastically drops.
Yeah.
Because of whatever political situation or economical situation. I'm not really.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
they were exported meat to Great Britain. And after that, they start producing their own meat. So they stop importing. But then they start to export to United Europe, to like Spain, Italy, Germany, and countries like that. And they make bigger their domestic consume. So then they grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I saw this decrease, and I saw that then around 70s and so on, United States exponentially increased. So maybe they were taking advantage of, the decrease that it was on Argentina to them, as like the first country of the capitalism to,
Yeah.
No?
But they open and close the import and export all the time. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a big reason of the growing up and down of the production.
Yes. Cool. Thanks.
But it's interesting to see how the production actually just kind of steadily grows, right? There are also fluctuations, but it goes up. And in my perception, I'm thinking, well, there are many more vegetarians and vegans nowadays, but the meat production steadily goes. It's continues, just growing, right? It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's that because of the part of the culture, and also if you want to be a vegetarian in Argentina, it's really expensive, more than to be meat consumer. So,
but even in other countries, it's the same thing, right? The meat production is continuing, like it's growing, which I don't know if I find more interesting or more concerning, but it was pretty cool to see. Yeah, I was definitely expecting something else, or at least some kind of little, something flattening there, but. Well, I hope it flattens at some point.
Yeah.
Keto diet, maybe, Giovanna. We know the vegetarian, but then the keto diet is like the new thing. So
True.
That's true.
That's very true. It's very popular. Yeah. Well, good to see you, Ines.
Victoria, any advice for your family? Because you do this project because your family. Any advice that you, I don't know.
No, the domestic consume is going up, so you can keep produce it.
Keep it up, no?
Keep going.
Cool.
Thank you, Victoria. So we have the last presentation by Angela. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Can you see it and hear me well?
Yes.
Yep.
Hello? Yeah? Okay,
Yeah,
so my presentation is called... You hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, my internet is a bit weird today. So my presentation is called Time Use, Truths and Myths about Time Use in Modern Life. Just to put you a bit on context, the time use research is a field of study dedicated to learn how people allocate their time during the average day. It's a fun fact that we all have exactly the same time budget, which is 24 hours a day, 365 days per year, and 8,760 hours every year of our lives. So I'm firstly going to guide you through the agenda for today. I will do a little introduction of myself, followed by also an introduction of the resources and the variables. Then we will see how people distribute their 24 hours a day in the different countries, and going a bit more into detail with sleep time, paid work and holidays, and the relationship between those and GDP. And we will see a general introduction as well for gender differences on time use in Spain and worldwide, and time spent with children and with our relationships in the US, and finally, screen time use. So for those who don't know me, my name's Angela. I work as an education coordinator in a design university from Barcelona, and this last year, I'm super into PlayStation, face messages, and snorkeling. Regarding the data source, describing the data sets I use for the analysis, I use like different data sets regarding time use from OECD, quite updated database, and the Data World Bank. There were 35 countries analyzed, different variables, men and women aged 15 to 64 from the latest year, and everything is mainly measured by minutes. Those are some of the variables. There will be a bit more subtopics, but main topics are paid work or study, unpaid personal care. I wanted to point this one out because it's something that took my attention, that on personal care, on this survey, they include activities relating to biological needs, like sleeping, eating, resting, healthcare, religious care, and also the relaxing ones, like meditating, thinking, and planning, which is quite weird classification, but nice, and then leisure and other. So basically what I want to answer today is some of the following questions. How do people spend their time in modern life, similarities, visible trends, the percentages that different countries spend on working, sleeping, Spanish, gender, children, and relationships. And destroying myths and beliefs, like trying to guess if it's true that because everything is faster now, we work, sleep, and spend more time alone than before, so the comparison with before. So let's start with the idiosyncrasy of every country regarding the general 24-hour use of their time. On this first slide, we can see, like, I just wanted to point out, like, the trend. It is sorted by paid work and minutes. So there's two opposite poles of Japan versus Italy that we will see more in detail later on. And then there's also possible cultural differences, like, for example, people in France, Greece, Italy, or Spain report spending more time eating than in the USA, that they spend 63 minutes. And there can also be differences in demographic, education, and economics that might affect on the countries and their time use. If we see, on average, we might understand it better. And we basically spend around 35% of our total time during the day sleeping, and the 16th percent of the time working. And surprisingly, we spend 6% more time watching TV than studying, which drove my attention as well. So let's destroy the first myth, like a 24/7 society sleeps less. We know the average person gets around 7 hours of sleep. Another different topic would be analyzing the quality of this sleep, but it's a good amount of hours. We can also say that not all developed countries rest well. We can see here that South Korea and Japan are the worst countries getting a good night's sleep. I've checked correlation, but there's not a clear relation between paid work and sleep. So basically, more time working doesn't necessarily mean sleeping worse. Regarding working hours and holidays, we are analyzing this topic more and more in order to keep our well-being and satisfaction at work high. And we can say that after checking correlation between annual working hours versus GDP, we can find some answers, like richer countries can afford to work less in general. If you see here, like Luxembourg, Switzerland, or Ireland, Yeah, basically from the barrier of the 20K, mainly European countries start to drop in the amount of hours worked. But if you look at the ones working more hours, it's full of Asian countries like India, Myanmar, China. Yeah. So just a quick overview more into detail into two of the variables analyzed. There's housework and paid work. In housework, it takes the attention of Mexico. Basically, Mexican women are working around 10 hours a day because there's counting paid and unpaid labor. So basically, domestic labor such as cooking and cleaning at home are counted here. And on the other side, paid work. There's Japan again. And the OECD, so basically the organization I took the data set from, estimates that on average, 22% of all Japanese employees work more than 50 hours a week. But generally speaking, workers now work around 20 to 30 hours less every week than in the 19th century. On this slide, there is a line plan showing a line time from the 19th century till nowadays. And on a quick look, we can see that holidays have increased as our society has evolved and changed. There is a big hill on the graphic that corresponds to the Second World War. And it also is also the date where the two-day weekend started to get more popular. But yeah, basically nowadays, further reductions in work are translated into increase of holidays, sick days, personal leaves, early retirement, and yeah, basically regulations that limit working hours, which are good news. Let's move to a quick and general overview of gender. So basically, surprisingly, as you must have expected, there's still gender inequalities worldwide. Just a quick reminder about personal care, meaning including sleeping, relaxing, doing nothing, and yeah, and personal care. That value is quite equal, but we can find gender gaps worldwide in paid work, leisure, and unpaid work. And here some of the answers could be that women are not registering or not being paid in lower GDP countries, even not reporting caring jobs such as childcare, cleaning, caring, as we saw before with Mexico. It could also be that men are not taking their paternal leaves and some other reasons that could be checked in more deep. And this is directly connected to unpaid work. It's exactly the same, or well, not exactly the same, but super similar in gender, regarding gender in Spain. The biggest gap is again on unpaid work. And let me remember you what was unpaid work. There was shopping, yeah, and mainly caring. So basically, we are not being so we are not registering or being paid for caring others, or household members, or childcare, or volunteering. So if we move to childcare, we can see that even though women, we are working outside home more, or the rise of single parenting that could make us think the opposite, there is a clear increase of the time spent with our children. And this is the same both on women. There's been job reductions, better rights on work-life balance, but still women are spending more time with children. Another possibility could be that more educated parents could spend more time with their children. It would be subject to analysis, the quality of that time again, as before. The relationships we have during our lifetime. In this chart, it shows the amount of time that people in the US report spending in the company of others based on their age. So basically, we can see here that when we are young, We spend a lot of time with friends, parents, siblings, and other parts of the family. And when we continue to grow in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, Americans report to spend much of their time with partners, children as well, and even co-workers. When they get to 60 and older, there is a significant drop-off because basically many people in the US enter retirement in their 60s. But what took my attention on this one is the time spent alone when we get older. So basically, today, nearly 4 out of every 10 Americans who are older than 89-year-olds live alone. And another interesting point here is that the share of people across all age groups who live alone has been increasing. So basically, the time alone increases. And finally, the time use on screen time. When I decided to do the final project about time use and started checking on the internet, it was weird that the first thing that appeared was time use on screen. That made me think that might be one of the most analyzed and searched topics that could worry society nowadays. And I wanted to know what was true about that. So, according to respondents of a survey conducted on February this year, half of the individuals that were asked were spending an average of 5-6 hours a day, including work-related time, which is a lot. And only 5% of those less than an hour. And also on this plot, we can appreciate the wild increase of the blue line, which is regarding mobile from 2012. Finally, my conclusions. So we could say that in general, there are similarities regarding daily activities. There's definitely still gender differences to fight about regarding leisure, paid and unpaid work. We do sleep more than in the last 50 years. Trump makes it to 4 hours, but the rest of us get an average of 7 hours and 12 minutes of sleep, according to the users of sleep cycle. We do sleep even more than in the last 50 years. Rather than working more than ever, workers work much less than in the past 150 years. There's still huge inequalities. We're spending longer time with our children regardless of gender, and there is a dramatic increase of mobile phone use with an average of 5 hours a day. That's it.
Thank you, Angela. I really enjoyed your presentation. You had like some key insights to our society, like how much time we're spending on our mobile phone, but I'm super happy that we're sleeping more, at least.
For me, it's the opposite. I'm sleeping less when as I'm getting older, I'm sleeping less than when I was 20.
That's true. I wake up at around 7 or something. Yeah,
even in the weekends, no, if I like, you know.
Especially after this course, yeah.
Yes, I have some questions, more like curiosity. So this one that was linked to the time spent on the mobile and on the screen, let's say, no? So you were telling us that it was average and work related. What do you mean by that? So not just for fun, such as, for instance, looking for whatever, Instagram or TikTok, but also if I want to see something related to the work, or does it count, let's say, the hours that I'm in the computer, you know, working, or?
It's basically people checking their mail outside working hours. Like my boyfriend is here at night, and he's got his business and he's checking. Yeah. So I guess it's related. It's about that. That's what it comes to my mind. Yeah.
Vale. Because I was like, I don't really. Well, I don't know if it's, you know, the time, the hours.
Yeah, the increase on your phone, like work, like checking related, job related things. Yeah.
Vale, okay, such as the Slack channel.
for example.
Vale, and another thing that I found it super interesting, how did you manage to, create some kind of animation on the plots? So what are you
So
using Dash or
you
something?
you basically export it to SVG.
Ah.
Yeah, so you drop them on Illustrator, and then you do all the work, and then you move it to After Effects.
So you were using your own skills also, no, to make it. Okay. Because I thought it was like Dash or something, and I was like, I want to know it. Congrats, I really love
It's
it.
basically, yes, if you save it into SVG, you can move it to in software design programs.
Nice that you managed also to use your own skills. I really love it.
Thank you.
Cool,
It took me a while, but
but no, you did it.
I did it.
Cool,
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question or comment for Angela? All right, so I think this is the end. I really enjoyed all of your presentations, girls. I think that they were like super meaningful, and that is very important. And I really like this idea that Victoria actually quoted, that was the ones that have the information have the power. So I hope you continue exploring this path, really, like for real. We're super proud of you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
And there's for sure amazing things coming from you. Like, this is great. I love the presentations. But I must say that the girls did put so much work. Okay, and it definitely shows. I'm very proud. The progress was amazing, super steep. But that's how it goes when you put a lot of effort, and they definitely did put so much effort. It was amazing. Loved all your presentations and loved all your progress. It was great.
Thank you, Giovanna. We couldn't have done it without you. You know that.
No, it's the effort that counts. You were driving me, at times, so don't worry. It's really 95% on you, and then 5% on me to sometimes motivate you, at 9:30 to keep going on your projects. But it's all on you. So congrats. Enjoy this. It's a huge success. You should be very proud of yourself.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Giovanna. Also, thank you to Doya. We're hoping to hear from you very soon. Share your projects. And again, thank you. We are super proud.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats, everybody.
Bye. Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.